Welcome to Giants Nation. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with Ryan Novozinsky of NJ.com, and we're recapping 10 days of training camp practices. It's our last recap before we have a week off. We have a preseason game in between, and then we'll have Jets joint practices, which we can kind of wrap up training camp, even though there's still some practices left. We have Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post on. Later, we talk about him for 20 minutes or so, and I did get to throw the first pitch out of the Sussex County Miners game. And a little teaser, I'm going to do that at the end of the show. So won't spend too much time on that. But man, 10 training camp practices down. It feels like yesterday we were jumping in this bus for the first time. How you feeling 10 practices down with the New York Football Giants?
Not that I had.
You don't have your headphones set. Like,
My bad, that's a minus on me.
that was the first time that's happened where we just start talking without the headset, but I like it.
But not that I haven't had a blast with you, Bobby. I've had a blast, but you said that it feels like just yesterday. It feels like a month for me, man. It was a long, arduous journey, a couple hot days, but I would say in from the end of last season to now, you have to feel a whole heck of a lot better about the New York Giants, right?
Yeah, it's how the season's gonna go go really, bad really quick. But it is it seems like a more competent team, and that starts with quarterback play with Russell Wilson. We're talking about Jaxson Dart and then before we bring Ryan Dunleavy on. First, this episode was brought to you by some very special people. We got Edward Duran. He's not a Moran, he's a Doran. RJ Beh the third. Yeah, we got chords all over the
No,
place.
just making sure. I can't hear you in my headset, so I don't know if
You can't hear me in your headset? Uh-oh. How about now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can definitely hear.
Yeah, I cranked it all the way up. RJ Beh the third. He's the best. Lindell Perry. I played that a backup tight end who played in high school with his first name was Lindell. Kyle Cassidy. I'm pretty sure I played college football with Kyle Cassidy. Or another Cassidy. Brian Blah, man. He likes the blah, 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 blah. Jonathan Watkins. It's Sammy Watkins' little brother. Mark Damon. It's actually Johnny Damon's little brother. And Colton Seagraves. It's actually the guy who created Seagram's Gins, unrelated. These special people went to patreon.com/Giants Nation. They keep the show alive. We appreciate if you join the $10 tier. We give away stickers. We do t-shirt raffles, exclusive content. There's going to be exclusive film reviews with the preseason games coming up and in the regular season. So patreon.com/Giants Nation is the way to keep this show alive. But this is gonna be more of training camp recap of what we've seen through 10 days. And I do want to talk about Jaxson Dart now that the next time we'll see him is in a preseason game. And then the joint practices with the Jets is going to be more so about the starters than it is Jaxson Dart. His first three practices, we came on here, and it was rough. Like, it was really bad. And he was 10 of 21, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Even the touchdowns, felt a little cheap because they were in the red zone. He was completing less than half of his passes, throwing those interceptions. But the main thing was just holding onto the ball forever. Forever. And I'm not talking about like scrambling around trying to make a play. I'm just like sitting in the pocket, not seeing some clear reads, and not pulling the trigger. Since then, he's 43 of 66, so completing, essentially 66% of his passes, 4 touchdown passes, and 0 interceptions. So again, he's went 7 practices without even throwing an interception. He's finding, comfort in some of the quick game stuff. It's more sideline oriented. But he's like, pushing the ball down, towards the middle of the field. He's, Montrell Washington. We're going to talk about him, some tough plays. So, completion percentage goes from 47 to 66%, 2 interceptions to 0 interceptions. He's hitting some nice throws. That was always the goal for Jaxson Dart in this training camp, was to look more comfortable and get better. And the first 3 days looked like a guy who was overwhelmed by an NFL training camp. And he hasn't been perfect, right? He had a bad day on day 9. Today, he held onto the ball a little bit, but it seemed like on purpose. But he looks like a different quarterback than what he looked like those first 3 days, Nobo.
You can pretty much most times when Brian Daboll speaks during press conferences, you can pretty much tell when, he's doing the coach speak or basically just lying to you or whatever. So when he said day 1 that that his goal for Jaxson Dart was to get better every day, you kind of just chalk it up to coach speak. Well, Jaxson Dart clearly took that personally, and I would say that he got better every day. There were a couple here, and then I think Saturdays was a pretty bad practice, but I would say that the steady progression from Jaxson Dart made me more optimistic about him than I was going in, because I wasn't really a big Jaxson Dart guy coming out of college, but I would say that I can kind of see the vision now, where those mistakes where he's holding onto the ball too frequently, the speed at which he kind of like tossed that to the side makes me a little optimistic. And I know this is like training wheel stuff, right? Um, but the way that he was able to kind of shake that out gives me signs of optimism. The fact that today we're talking about, oh, like he held the ball in the backfield for too long. Well, he wasn't doing that because he was holding the ball too long. Through through being indecisive, he held the ball on too long because he had pretty crappy receivers out there.
Yeah, and some like third and long drills. So
Right.
like that's where you can invite holding onto the ball a little longer than you would on a normal play where you can hit a check down more readily. So, but again, that's been. I'm excited to see him in preseason. I don't know how much he's going to play. Have you heard anything on what you expect to see from him or even anybody in this preseason game this Saturday?
I think it'll be a little bit limited. As much as we want to see Jaxson Dart, I think a lot of teams tend to, especially in this first preseason game, where they try to limit the quarterback a little bit. I remember seeing that with Drake May last year, and a couple other quarterbacks as well. Um, Kind of ease them in process wise. I would say Jaxson Dart's pretty ready for it though. Like I don't think that there's anything that I look at and say, this is a guy with injury concerns or anything like that. This is someone that I think is kind of ready for this challenge, and I'm very eager to see what he could do against live competition that isn't his team.
And he doesn't have that early path to playing, so I would like to see him get a lot of reps there. But it's just, again, it's about getting better every day for Jaxson Dart, or not even every day, but getting better progressively throughout this season to win. When if he gets some starts at the end of the season, being much better than what he is then, and then using that experience of if he plays in those games to build into next year. So
The
again,
no turnovers thing is sincerely impressive too. Like I think that got like he had the one pick or he had the two picks early on, and then since
yeah,
then
first play was a pick six.
exactly yeah.
So again, like you said, building off that, taking care of the ball while not holding on to the ball forever. Again, there's a long ways to go for Jaxson Dart, but that, if you guys were watching the day 3 streams or our first recap with Art Stapleton, uh, that's what was kind of pounding. That's what I want to see. I don't need to see the best quarterback in the NFL. I don't need to light it up. I don't need to see great days. I want to see progression, and I feel like we've seen that from Jaxson Dart. Um, the other topic I've been most intrigued about, and I talked about having on our training camp preview, talking about like there's some things I want to have some takeaways from when I leave. Still got some just practices. One was Deonte Banks. We're gonna get to. One is how is Russell Wilson handling like the secondary part of their passing concepts? We know he's going to throw the ball down the field. He's done that well. We know he's going to feed Malik Nabers. What is he doing within their quick game or the middle of the field? And maybe the fact that I have questions is the answer. Is like, no, it's kind of very similar to Russ, where he's going to be a fine quarterback for you, but there is limitations in what he's doing. But this is, I thought, is so interesting, and this has been my question for everybody we've interviewed. Russ is 88 of 133, 11 touchdowns and 5 interceptions through these 10 practices. Here are the catches from Russell Wilson so far. Malik Nabers has 25. 25. So that's, well over 25%, maybe even 30% of his receptions, or his completions. Tyrone Tracy is second with 14. Theo Johnson is third with 10. And then fourth, fifth, and sixth all have 7 and 1 touchdown. Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Jalen Hyatt. And it's not like they've all basically missed the same amount of time. Like it seems like all of those guys have missed about 2 days, and been able to step up. For other guys that are out there. Daniel Bellinger 6 with 2 touchdowns, and then you got a handful of guys with 1 to 3. It's how is this offense going to look under Russ structurally? Not talking about how many points per game or whatever, but how's it going to look? It's going to be Malik Nabers. They're going to feed him a ton. And I think, if I'm, giving my friends fantasy football advice, I'm like, Tracy's going to be, if regardless of how good he is as a rusher, he might be a little bit of a PPR scam for you this year.
No, definitely. This is one of those things, man, where, of course, there goes our segment. They're the one that, with them having the same exact numbers, we've asked every guest this question, and kind of goes by the wayside. Tracy's a good guess. I'm starting to kind of buy into the Theo Johnson thing too. I don't know that he'll necessarily be that number 2 option, but I think he'll maybe, be a threat there. Um, because as Dunleavy mentioned later on, as you guys will see in the future now, this is a guy that likes to work with his tight ends, right? And you saw it. He took a dip in production, just not even production, just targets wise, towards Theo Johnson early in camp, and it kind of went from like practices 3 to 7. There was no targets towards or no completions by Theo Johnson, um, and then from there it was what he had like he had like 6
Yeah, it's
in one day or
2
something like that.
days after having, like, 5 days in a row where he didn't get any. But it's with Theo, it's just like he's gonna need to do his work over the middle of the field, and Russ isn't gonna be getting he just doesn't target that part of the field. In fact, it's been those, check downs to the sideline, right?
Yeah.
That's where Pat Frymuth and Darnell Washington got some of their production from Russell Wilson last year, and, I don't think that's using Theo to his full advantage, but it's just how is everyone else outside of Malik Nabers going to eat on this offense? Wan'Dale Robinson was force fed last year. Darius Slayton didn't get the same amount of targets, but he had quality when he was targeted, right? 15 yards per catch. Essentially was their number 2, their second receiver on the team. The tight ends didn't get and running backs didn't get much action. Well, now the tight ends and running backs are going to get a ton of action. Is who's going to be that's like somebody's going to have to be fifth, and that could be a guy who got over 140 targets or whatever it was
Right.
last year. Like he could realistically be fourth or fifth on this team in catches. A guy who got that many targets a year ago, because again, Russ does not use the slot that way. It's not just a size thing. He just doesn't use the slot. And again, Wan'Dale has 7 catches. He's had a few downfield, right? It hasn't been the juke choice route, and, I went back and looked at last year's numbers to compare it, a little bit, and here's last year, and I won't get into, like, what Daniel Jones's, um, numbers were. Where I just had it. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? Okay. So last year Daniel Jones in the training camp practice I had 100 completions. Russ at this point has 88, so fairly similar. Catches from Daniel Jones through 100 completions. Wan'Dale, 26. Phew. He was like
Yeah.
Malik Nabers had the crazy camp, but Wan'Dale was just getting target after target after target. This now he has 7. 7. Malik Nabers, 23. So similar, actually a little less on 12 more completions. Jalen Hyatt, they were force feeding, got 12. Darius Slayton got 12. Slayton, didn't get the same opportunities. And then you get the running back. Singletary, 9. Tracy, 6. The tight end, Theo Johnson got 3. Cager got 2, Bellinger got 1. So it's very much just however good this offense is going to be, it's going to be so much different because Russ is throwing the ball down the field and he's doing it well. But the way receiver number 2 through 5 on the team, including the tight end running back, is just used in a complete different way. And I think it's gonna be really interesting to see how that plays out through the whole season.
Well, Wan'Dale, you kind of saw his limitations today. Was kind of on full display today, right? Like the interception by Javon Holland, the pick six, or essentially what looked like a pick six. Wan'Dale's catch radius is so tiny that he
Yeah, it's
couldn't.
right there. It's right
Yeah,
there ahead of him, and he can't make that catch, and then Holland intercepts it. And that's why it's like I don't want Wan'Dale being used down the field a ton. Here and there, sure,
right.
but like that's not his game. And if you're putting him down there, you're just asking for negatives, right? Because you got to have to have perfect throws because of his lack of catch radius. Um, he's not going to go up and make these tough catches. Like it's just that's where he's used, but I don't think Russ is going to use him a ton in that spot anyway. So you're going to go from a guy who has so much usage to I think people might be complaining about not getting enough in the middle of the year.
Correct me if I'm wrong too, but every single Wan'Dale downfield catch this training camp has been kind of a circus catch, like or at least the notable ones, right?
Yeah, yeah, that one-handed, slot
Mhm.
fade on day 2 of camp. I got 7. Your slot receiver having 7 catches
Yeah,
is kind of wild.
yeah,
And it speaks to how Russ uses these guys. Um, in fact, I have now again, there's been a handful like Amir Smith, Marset, Little Jordan, Humphrey, Montrell. Like and I kind of had catches. So like, here's the categories for receptions for us: is other receivers 28, Malik Nabers 25, tight ends 18, running backs 17. So once they don't give a play here or there to those lesser guys, maybe you see a little more for them. Um, Speaking of Montrell Washington, uh, I think he's went for everybody of guy you don't talk about at all at the training camp to where if you ask us all to do a 53-man roster, you're putting him on it.
Yeah, no, 100%. This is a guy that it's almost like these past couple of days, especially, there's a certain presence about, and I no way am comparing him to Malik Nabers, but in these training camps, there's a certain presence about Nabers that he has where if the ball is thrown to him, he's going to catch it. That kind of feels the same way with Montrell Washington of late. And I'm not saying, again, not comparing him to Nabers, not at all, but that's just kind of a testament to some of the showings that he's put on in front of the fans and right here in training camp. This is a guy that's made circus catches. He's made the one-handed grab that he did in 7-on-7s today on day 10. Um, but he's also been a weapon for Dart in kind of just intermediate situations
Yeah.
too. Like he's been a reliable their chemistry, it's one of those things. It's kind of an underrated storyline where I think that part of the reason beyond just his skill level that he might make the team is that he's had a pretty nice little, connection there with Jaxson Dart.
Yeah, he's had a really we kinda went into this campaign like, which UDFA is gonna find that with Dart, and it's been Montrell Washington. They even got him in the mix with the first team snaps a little bit. Um, he's received the most, Jaxson Dart, through his stats, Jaxson Dart's most, receptions, caught is Montrell Washington. Bo Collins got hurt, Cam Scatterby got hurt, those guys might have led the way if they stayed healthy. But Montrell, unlike those guys, Cam Scatterby has a spot to the roster, but, like, he has, like, that backup slot, and Amir Smith-Marset started camp as the backup slot wide receiver,
Yep.
and Montrell Washington took that job from him, um, and again, Washington, who's never really gotten an opportunity in the NFL, was with the Broncos and then the Chiefs the last couple of years. In fact, Montrell Washington has 30 rushing yards on 5 attempts in his career. He only has 2 receiving yards on 4 catches, so he has more rushing yards, but he's like you said, Dart is hitting him in that middle part of the field, and I think he's made himself a real opportunity to get a roster spot with the New York Giants.
Completely agreed. No, this is, and I think going into camp too, you have a guy in Amir Smith-Marset that's been vying for, cracking into that lineup somehow, some way. Um, doesn't end up doing it, obviously, and, I mean, at least for now, we see, and don't even think he'll be the backup. I think they'll just keep him on as a specialist, and I think they'll roll a dice on a kid like this.
Well, you could roll the dice on body armor too. This episode is brought to you by Body Armor Sports Drink. Rewrite your routine and choose better with Body Armor. Body Armor is real hydration with electrolytes, coconut water, and no artificial dyes. None. Flavors or sweeteners. With great tasting flavors like strawberry banana or orange mango, Body Armor will level up your hydration game. Grab Body Armor Sports Drink today at your local grocery store. Body Armor. Choose better. You'll be glad you did. They literally made training camp happen, so very thankful to Body Armor
How much do you hate artificial dyes?
so much. I'm not legally allowed to say the things that I wanna do to artificial dyes. I wanna make them do what is in their name. Um, so thank you to Body Armor. Some other notes before we get to the Dunleavy interview. Uh, who do you think has been the best player of training camp, Malik Nabers or Abdul Carter?
Well, for starters, because it is one of those 2, they're both been, incredible. I think it's Neighbors, and only because there have been some days where Abdul Carter hasn't been bad, like, no, by no means has he. Um, but there's certainly, there's more opportunities for a receiver who gets so many, targets as Malik Neighbors does to show out, and every single time Neighbors is throwing the ball, it feels like he gets it, right? Like, and he'll make, kind of he'll make everything look masterful too. Like, every time he's thrown, you know that it's going to be caught, even if it's like a couple yards ahead of him or above him or whatever, he makes that catch.
Yeah, he makes play after play, and I think he's changed how next year in training camp, I'm actually gonna chart targets too, because everything that's thrown his way, he's completed, and I've I think on the last episode that I came on here and just talked and talked and talked about Abdul Carter and how impressive he is. Well, Blake Nabers has been, like, more consistently great than Abdul Carter, and again, I think those are 2 of the 4 best players on the team. The other guys, not really Dexter Lawrence has been very limited, Andrew Thomas is still on the PUP list, um, but, both those guys, Malik Nabers has been dominant, he's gonna have an amazing year. I think 1,300 yards is, like, the bar for him. And Abdul Carter, rookie year, so we got to see it, but I'm really excited for him. But I agree with you where, I was hoping to say Abdul Carter, but I actually think Malik Nabers has had the best camp where Carter hasn't been as loud the last couple of days, where Nabers has just been consistently every day he's making those big plays.
Maybe we put it like this too. Malik Nabers overall, consistency-wise, has been the better player. But both players at their peak. Carter might have had better peaks, might have had higher peaks because some of those spin moves were pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, and again, it's wide receiver, you get more opportunities to
Sure.
make plays in training camp, but, like and Carter's been great, and you look he wins every single one-on-one, so it's tough, though, but it's refreshing to have that, right? You got 2 young players, like, "Alright, which guy has been balling out the most?" Because both of them have, where, a couple years ago, it was Darren Waller, and in fact, Daniel Jones was balling out in training camp, and that was kind of it, where the defense was struggling terribly, the pass rush wasn't getting there, and then no one else was really making a name for themselves. Um, Other notes, Cordell Flott has been injured. Deonte Banks hasn't really like, again, a guy I was judging in training camp, I'm very down on Deonte Banks, even though it looks like he will be the starter. It's now or never time for Deonte Banks.
Oh, it definitely is. This is one of those battles where you wanted it to be kind of this high octane, two guys duking it out kind of thing, but it's almost like they both slog towards the end, and obviously Flop being injured towards the end there too, and not practicing, kind of by default gives it to Deonte Banks. But no, it's nothing that's exactly inspiring. It's not exactly one of those things where it's like Deonte Banks grabbed the job and he took it and he didn't give it back. No, no, no. He kind of just won it by default a little bit.
Yeah, when Flott gets back, I don't think it's fully over
Right,
either, right?
exactly.
Like, that was as usually you get someone who gets that advantage pretty like in the 3rd, 4th, 5th day. I mean, it got to day 8 to when Flott was out where Banks started, to obviously get that advantage because Flott wasn't there. So it felt like they were getting as true of a battle as they possibly could. Um, and then other last note of like big takeaways is run defense. Again, Dexter Lawrence has not been practicing essentially. The run defense, I think, is in a rough spot, and there's talks about vibes and better overall roster, and that's a fact. Um, but if if I'm in that front office, I'm worried that that run defense is gonna stop me from being able to use my safeties or use Abdul Carter the way I want to. I think that's my biggest negative takeaway from 10 training camp practices. It's not Deonte Banks or anything. It really is. I think the run defense can be a huge liability for the team this year.
It might be so big that it'll probably make the things that they do well, it'll put a stay on them, right? Like, because they didn't adequately address that one thing, and of course they get Darius Alexander, but he's not exactly a run stuffer too, right? Like, I think that's going to be one of the bigger storylines to follow this year. We all know Dex wasn't out there that much in training camp, and that's fine. But we saw a season where Dex is out there last season, right? Obviously,
Last 3 years been elite
right.
player, bad run defense.
Exactly. Yeah. So, to not have a guy that's better opposite him is very concerning for this run defense.
Yeah, and again, their edge defenders are more playmakers in the run game than they are with these, dominators. And it's just there's lanes. There's consistent lanes for these backs to make plays, and there's not, a bunch of tackles in the backfield or clusters 2 yards down the field. It is very clear and defined lanes, and I think it's hurting the linebackers because of that defensive tackle group, not allowing those guys to make plays. And if that defensive tackle group is easily blocked in the run game, it has a trickle effect, right? It doesn't allow the edge guys to make those tackles for loss. It doesn't keep those linebackers clean. It doesn't allow those edge rushers to get after the passer more often. It doesn't allow those safeties to play from depth and do different coverages. It doesn't allow them to not bite on play action as much. So really need them to I think if there's anything we're looking at on waiver wire day, it is the defensive tackle spot. Do you hear that ringing sound?
Not really.
I'm hearing a ringing sound in my ears. At least I'm not old. Do you know that have you heard of, like, that frequency that old people can't hear?
No, I haven't.
We used to play it in school, and it'd drive people crazy, and then we wouldn't get in trouble, though, because the old people couldn't hear it. Alright, that's all we've got. Again, I wanna do some stuff on, the baseball game and stuff after the interview, but, here is Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post. We now welcome onto the program of the New York Post 2023 Tony Award winner Ryan Dunleavy. What do you think of the bus so far?
I love this bus. It's a severe upgrade. Last year we did this in a dark black van in a CVS parking lot.
Yeah. So last year you were at like a John Mara speaking
John
event?
Mara talked that day at like the Hackensack Children's Hospital. So you met me in Hackensack.
Yeah. So we had the Hackensack CVS. Me and Justin showed up. Recorded a quick interview.
Yep.
Talked about Greg Van Roten signing, and then called it a day.
But this bus is legit. I love it.
It's nice. I feel like it is an upgrade. It's a little harder, but it is an upgrade.
The grass on the field, fans can't see that, right? But the grass on the bottom of the bus is what really does it for me, the turf.
Yeah, this thing has changed my life for the better.
Now, Bobby, I feel like I've heard a couple comments saying too, like they want to tour the bus. So I think maybe on a live stream or two, we gotta get a tour.
Yeah, that's what I need to do. Like at the end of training camp, give a nice bus tour. We had the Sussex County Miners. They came out there. Everyone loved the bus. I threw the first pitch, airmailed it over the over the catcher's head. But we're here to talk about Giants training camp, and we're done. This is the last practice I will have watched before they practice with the Jets. So last time seeing Giants versus Giants, what has been your biggest takeaway through 10 days, Dunleavy?
Russell Wilson, the quarterbacks are more aggressive than I thought they were going to be. Like, Russell Wilson has a reputation that he doesn't like to throw interceptions, so he doesn't throw the ball over the middle of the field. He's an outside the numbers guy. He's thrown the ball over the middle of the field quite a bit. He has 6 interceptions. He's been aggressive. Jaxson Dart has not met a window that he doesn't like to throw the ball into. He thinks he can get the ball into every window, no matter how tight. So I think that you're going to see, if he plays, some highlight reel throws and some tip ball interceptions as he learns what he can and can't do. And then Jameis Winston obviously gunslings everything. And then on the defensive side of the ball, my biggest takeaway is Abdul is Malik Nabers. That is what you're supposed to get when you draft a number 5, 4, 3 kind of player. Giants fans have forgotten that because their top 10 picks are Eric Flowers and Eli Apple and Evan Neal. And not that he belongs in that category at all, but Kayvon Thibodeau, who's an actual player, just not at that level of a game wrecker. You're supposed to get game wreckers. Malik Nabers, game wrecker. Corresponding side, Abdul going to be a game wrecker.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point with Carter where I'm just I'm not bored, but I'm just like, all right, it's like I said, it's like Malik Nabers last year. Came in, all right, camp, he's exciting, he's good. All right, you're so good that this doesn't even really excite me that much. Let's get to the games, and that's where it's going to excite me.
Correct. Bobby and I have a category of players, like you said, it's Malik and Abdul, where we kind of get like 30 minutes into the podcast, and we're like, oh, hey, we haven't talked about Malik Nabers, who dominated today, or Abdul Carter, same deal. Dunleavy, how concerned are you about the run defense? Concerned. Yeah, concerned. I think on defense, that's probably my biggest concern. No, you know what? That would be a lie, Novo. I'll say I'm still concerned mostly on defense about cornerback 2. That's still my biggest concern on defense because it's a passing league. But yes, the run defense, I would say, I thought they fixed it more than I've seen on the practice field.
Well, and I want to go back to the Carter stuff, and Russell Wilson. I am really disappointed that I didn't get to see Andrew Thomas out here to face up against, because good one-on-ones are favored against the offensive linemen, but we just seen Andrew Thomas just win no matter
Everyone
what. In these matchups, whether it's Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Azeez Ojulari, just destroy those guys in that one-on-one drill. And that's like the bar I wanted to see Abdul. Like we know he's going to be really good. Like Jermaine, who handles Burns and Kayvon fairly well, he just gave him nightmares. I wanted to see him against Thomas, which I think of the Jets practice, that's the thing I'm looking forward to the most, is seeing him against Olu and then his
Membu.
fellow, top 10 pick in Membu. But with Russell Wilson, it's the first training camp without Daniel Jones as a starter since 2019, and Daniel Jones was the story of that 2019 training camp. What is it that sticks out to you outside just, he throws the ball deep?
I think that there is a level of confidence instilled in all the teammates. Like, the old, does he make his teammates better? I never thought Daniel Jones did that ever. Like, you've never seen me write that. You heard me say that.
I never thought Daniel Jones lifted everybody else up around him. I do think that this Russell Wilson, and I want to be clear, guys, you're not getting the Seattle Seahawks Russell Wilson. You're not getting Hall of Famer. You're getting a player that's not just on the downside, but close to the end. But I do think that he puts the ball in positions where guys can catch and run like a Wan'Dale. I do think he throws the ball deep, which is something Hyatt, Slayton, Nabers want to do. I do think there are things he does that he might be able to cover for somebody's mistakes. He might be able to cover where a play was a sack under Daniel Jones. It might not be under Russ. Where it was first look and throw it out of bounds, if that's not open with Daniel Jones, you might get to your third read with Russell Wilson. There's a level of been there, done that, had success with him, that even though he's not at the top of his game, you don't just forget how to do. And I think that's probably going to make everybody else a little bit better.
We were talking pre-interview about how he gets to his checkdowns a lot, right? He's fed Malik Nabers. I think Malik Nabers has caught over 25% of his completions in these practices. And it's been automatic, right? It's very rare when he targets Malik Nabers and it's not a completion. Who do you see being the second receiving option on this team? This has been like my question of camp for everybody we've interviewed.
The Giants, they're going to call the plays for it to be Wan'Dale Robinson. That's the idea of the offense. They're going to call the plays for it to be Wan'Dale Robinson. I don't know how much Russell Wilson is going to Wan'Dale Robinson's strengths as a receiver match up with Russell Wilson's strengths as a quarterback. And then we know what Darius Slayton is, which is 50 catches a year for 750, 800 yards. That might go up a little bit with Russ, but I don't see him as like a 75, 80 catch guy.
Well, I would even put the category as yards because that's what I'm.
Oh, then it's going to be Slayton.
You really, yeah. Okay.
I think it's going to be Slayton. Yeah,
because Tracy has been the second receiving option for Russell.
I was going to say, as far as catches, I also think that Russell likes his tight ends. That's his thing. I mean, in Denver and Pittsburgh, he likes his tight ends. So I wouldn't rule out a lot of catches for Theo Johnson. But in yards, I would say Darius Slayton.
That's what Ed Valentine said the same thing the other day. He thinks it certainly could be Theo Johnson, but who's kind of turned it on the past couple of days, right? Like he kind of went quiet that one, a bunch of practice as a camp.
I'm not going to say he's as good as Pat Freiermuth, but if you see Pat Freiermuth's numbers took a jump with Russell Wilson. Greg Dulcich had his only good year of his career with Russell Wilson when he was in the Broncos. He uses his tight ends as a security blanket. So I think he could have a lot of catches if he's healthy. Yards wise, I think it'll be Darius Slayton.
I'm really, that's been my most intriguing point for Russell Wilson at the beginning of the season, because like I said, Malik Nabers is going to be automatic. He's going to get to his checkdowns with Tracy and Theo.
Scadabo.
It's Scadabo when he's healthy, and I think Theo has been more of like a checkdown option for him. But they're going to have the second receiver who is the second receiver, and Russ isn't getting the ball out with this quick game stuff, and that's where Wan'Dale is his best. And I understand people want to have this idea of, well, Wan'Dale is going to be more explosive. Sure, a little bit, but that's not the way.
Their strengths don't match up.
And then it's been very rare in these practices where Russ is getting to a secondary receiver. Like even Slayton, I think he has like 7 catches in 10 practices. 3 of those were on the day Malik Nabers went down.
Okay. That's a good stat.
So it seems like he's just not getting to that secondary receiver option and getting to the running backs and the tight ends and the checkdowns, which he's done fairly consistent.
So that would back up my Theo. Yeah, I wasn't really thinking about Tracy because, quite frankly, I think they're going to use Scadabo when he's healthy as the receiving back. So that would go to my Theo. But yeah, I guess Tracy's a possibility. I think it's going to be Slayton when push comes to shove. I think we do this every year in the papers, on the shows. I think we do this every year where we're like, we forget how consistent Darius Slayton is, and then the games are going to come and he's going to have 3 catches for 51, and every 3 games he'll have a touchdown, and at the end of the year that's going to add up to 51 catches, 800 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
I'm really rooting for him to get to that 800-yard mark, and I want to selfishly I want him to pass Odell in receiving yards for the Giants. You have your ear to the ground. When I ask people, we did the live show with the Miners and other people, and people say, oh, the vibes. I don't really buy into that. but you do have a good understanding of the front office and what they're thinking with everything. What is the what do you get from them when you hear things?
About this camp.
Yeah, just or not even about this camp, but like how they feel about this season and the team that they've
They're
built.
they're cautiously optimistic. Like, they were in denial last year that their team was as under-talented as it was, and I had my arguments with people inside that building, in various departments about the roster, and obviously I was, proven right. Uh, and what I had undervalued last year too was the leadership. Um, void that they did not have when times went tough. They're very optimistic. They're cautiously optimistic that they've raised the talent, which I think, even as somebody who's objective like I am, and maybe even borders on you have to prove it to fool me once, I think objectively they have significantly raised the starting caliber talent and the depth. There are guys that I don't know that are going to make this team that were automatic makes the team last year or even 2 years ago. So I think that has given some cautious optimism. And I think there's a lot of optimism that Russ is the right guy for where they are. Like, Russ's style can grate on you, and it has other teams. Like, it's relentless positivity. It's, to quote him the other day, it's like in the huddle, it's like, guys, we're playing for the New York Giants. Well, how lucky are we? We have the best job in the world. I'm like, yeah, that's cool in training camp. That's not going to work when you're 2-7 and guys don't want to hear that anymore, right? Like, but I think this was a team that was so beaten down confidence-wise last year. They were the butt of jokes, and they got their butt kicked in games, and, like, they saw Saquon go and run for a zillion yards, and McKinney leave and do well, and they've seen Beckham leave and do well, and it was a team that was beaten down last year. And I think Russ's persona, his luckiest guy in the world kind of thing, his Super Bowl, I've won Super Bowls, I think that has really given a lift to a lot of the young guys and a lot of even the older guys, that, hey, this is taking a burden off me. I don't have to be the leader. We have this guy doing it. So there's a lot of cautious optimism that they're a much improved team. But the realists I talk to in that building are very aware that, like, hey, we might still be the fourth best team in our division, even if we're much improved.
I think that's probably the most fascinating storyline of this year, is that all of this stuff is happening, and you talk about, like the optimism of having a guy like Russell Wilson come in and everything like that. But a lot of this sounds like, what you would talk about for a rebuilding team. This is year 4 of a regime. It's kind of do or die, right?
That's a good question. I don't necessarily say, like, it should be do or die.
It could be, yeah.
But they've made some mistakes that set back their process. So they don't look at it as year 4, because, like, they look at it as having, year 1, we got, we caught on the brakes. We, kind of screwed up our plan for year 2. Joe Shane's admitted that a few times. So then they kind of look at it as like year 3, and that's kind of a cop out. I think drafting Jaxson Dart set everything fresh. Like, I've said this, you asked me what I hear when I put my nose to the ground. The number one thing that people will tell you about John Mara is that he feels where Daniel Jones went wrong is when they started changing coaches and coordinators and players. Like, Daniel had what was a pretty impressive rookie year. He fumbled too much, but he threw the ball all over the field under Pat Shurmur. And then they fired Pat Shurmur, and they brought in Garrett and Judge, and they kind of neutered Jones into this, like, check down Charlie, not aggressive guy to limit his turnovers. And then Jones never really got his attacking mindset back. I think that people will tell you John Mara thinks the worst thing he did to Daniel Jones was the constant coaching changes. So I can't see a world where he's going to want to fire Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, no matter how bad this season is, and say, okay, now my next coach and GM, here's Jaxson Dart. And you go through the interviews, and the next coach and GM says, well, I had a 5th round grade on Jaxson Dart. I don't want him as my quarterback. And now that suddenly doesn't make sense anymore. I think this is all about letting Jaxson Dart get comfortable with these guys. He'll be the starter in 2026, and that's when everybody's butt is on the line.
I hope that's the way it is. Obviously, I was very, very much in the camp that they should be gone. But and I'm not sitting here saying I wanted Jaxson Dart either. But what I don't want is that situation
Correct.
you just described. I don't want that. So I do want I want it to either work out. That's my preferred option. Or if it doesn't, clean break. Not this. Well, we're okay. Maybe we get the GM who believes in the quarterback and gives him an opportunity. Just give Jaxson Dart a second year. You draft him the first round. He should be afforded that opportunity, and then figure it out after that.
If it works, great. You got your guys. That's what John Mara wants to work. He believes in these guys. He wants to believe he made the right hires. If it doesn't work out, well, hey, 2027, new GM, new coach. Arch Manning's in the draft, and then you have the Giants' literal dream scenario.
Do you see anything getting done with some of their guys who are up for contracts? I guess the couple would be Wan'Dale Robinson, Micah McFadden. I know this is a weird training camp question, but
No,
it is.
good.
It has come to my mind as the season comes along. Do they value those guys to try and get them locked up before this season starts?
I think Wan'Dale would be a yes. I don't know. I don't know of any discussions that have happened, but they value Wan'Dale Robinson. They.
It feels so good to have that truck out of here.
It does. And there's like a nice breeze right now. They value Wan'Dale Robinson. They stayed away from receivers in the draft, middle rounds of the draft, partly because of Wan'Dale Robinson. So, yes, I could see him. Whatever time-adjusted Sterling Shepard contract is, I think Sterling got, 4 and 40,
That sounds about right.
like 4 years ago. So what is that now? Like 4 and 50 or something like that. I could, if he was willing to take that, yes, I could see him. He's one of their guys they believe in as a core guy. Micah McFadden, I'm less sure of. I think he's, a good play. He's the kind of guys I think smart teams lock up, right? Like you don't let him get to free agency where he, gets some team throws money at him. You lock him up now. He's played a lot for you. He does certain things well. He's a role player. He's never going to be a Pro Bowler, but could you get him on 3 and 21 or something right now? I don't necessarily think that they view him in that light. As I was telling guys for the last couple days, and then I think we all heard Brian Daboll say it today, so many words, they love Darius Muasau. They love Darius Muasau. So one of the highest compliments Daboll pays anybody is calling them an instinctual player, and that's the label he threw at Muasau. They love him. I don't know if that means he's going to start. I don't know if that means he's going to unseat McFadden. I don't know if that means, Bobby's not going to come back. I don't know what it means, but I know they love Muasau, which makes me think that they're less likely to extend McFadden.
I'm not even banging the table to extend McFadden, but that answer drives me nuts a little bit. Have you ever been the background of a photo shoot? We just had a full-on photo shoot right in front of us with the bus.
I saw it. Have I ever been in the background of a photo? I don't know. Maybe, probably. I've never. What? They're not shooting me. You're the famous one.
Well, no, it was just the bus. I didn't know if we should say something and make them feel uncomfortable or whatever, or
Hey guys.
yeah.
Yeah.
Give them double birds or something, and pull an Eli.
Bobby's always signing autographs here. And he had to remind someone the other day to remind a kid. He was like, I'm just telling you, I'm not a player.
Remind, because I can look like a player, with my size, and I'm like and then because it's not because the first person comes up and wants to get my autograph on the football or something, and then you see another kid comes up, I'm like, I just want to let you know that I have a podcast, not a player. Before
and then they take the football back.
No, that hasn't happened to me yet. That hasn't happened to me. My favorite was the LPG softball game.
Yes, I love it.
And Dexter Lawrence was the last guy there, and we were still there, and me and Dexter back to back, both signing a football, and my wife got a nice picture of that. Where maybe we'll put that on a card or something. Where are we at? Let's see. No, do you have anything else before we do the famous final question of the bus van interviews?
I don't. I'm ready for this final question.
What is your record prediction for the 2025 New York Giants?
I'm ready for it. You ask me every year. 5-12.
5-12. Okay.
And here's what I've said in a synopsis.
That's the lowest so far, by the way.
Is it? Man,
it's 3-7-10s, 1-6-11, and so you give us 5.
So I think I'm the lowest every year. I think that's pretty much my MO is I've always been the lowest.
I'll be lower this year.
Last year I went 4 and somehow still hit the over. Yeah, I'm always the lowest. I'm on. I think I haven't picked more than 6 in any of the 8 years that I've been doing this. Here's what I'll say in a nutshell. I think the Giants will be a much more watchable, competitive team this year. Like, there were times, everybody who's watching this is a diehard knows. Like, there were times last year they were unwatchable. Like, getting first downs was a struggle. Like, literally common sense for pre-snap penalties. Like, they were not a well-coached, well-played team last year. They were not a competitive team. There were games that looked like they gave up. I don't think any of that will happen. Like, I think they will be a much more competitive team. I just think at the end of the day, the schedule is brutal. They're just gonna lose some games to better teams. Like, the talent wins in the NFL, and the Giants' talent is much better than it was last year. It's still probably 18th to 20th in the NFL. You know what I mean? It's still not a top 15 caliber team. So still think they're going to lose a lot of games, but I think they're going to lose games that last year they lost 31-10, might be 31-24 this year.
I think week 1 is so important for them. Because if you look at their schedule, I think
They should have beat that team twice last year.
They should have beat them twice, and the Commanders are one of the more winnable teams on the schedule, because as good as that offense is and they made improvements, we'll see if Terry McLaurin's there too, that defense, very well coached, is untalented. It is an untalented defense, and if the quarterback was, the issue last year, well, then we should be putting up 30-plus on them. And hell, Russ even had, I think, his best game as a Steeler was against the Commanders too. So, I think week 1 is so important. If they drop week 1, I'm head in hand, thinking like this is going to be another long year. But give me week 1, at least give me a week of hope and delusion, and then maybe they're still probably 2-3 after 5 weeks, but at least they've got week 1.
There's people in the building who think that they have a better chance to beat the Cowboys than the Commanders.
So my thing with that is, if you want to go and look at the rosters and stuff like that, I get that. Until they beat Dak Prescott, I'm just not picking them to beat Dak Prescott.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I think that's what I actually told the person who told me that. I was like, sounds great. Beat Dak Prescott for the first time since 2016. Maybe I'll believe you.
Which you're eventually, due has been a word that's, come into my mind. Like, they're due. But then I'm like, all right, well, they've been due to win in Philly, and it's been 12 years. Like, that's ridiculous.
Tells Bears fans who went like 3-27 against Aaron Rodgers that they were due to beat Aaron Rodgers. It's like,
they were 3 though. That three right there.
Well, they have 2 against Dak Prescott.
I know, so we need that third.
Yeah.
But all right, Ryan, thank you for jumping on the bus. We will talk soon. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys having me.
All right, thanks again for Ryan Dunleavy jumping on the show. Always appreciate him giving us his time. I want to finish off talking about the camp experience, with the new Giants Nation show. But first off, I want to talk about the Sussex County Miners. We did our live show and our whole event there on Saturday. Genuinely, you have to get out there if you're in the area. And it's only an hour. It's only an hour of drive, even during traffic from MetLife. It's a beautiful area. It's a beautiful stadium. They go all out, right? They are trying to create experience. They're not just simply, a Frontier League team that's like, this is what we do. We do some giveaways here and there. But they're not like trying to be Savannah Bananas, but they understand, like, it's entertainment. It's regular baseball, but they go all out, whether it's their MC, their GM, Vincent, is one of the most down-to-earth guys ever, their owner, Mike. I got to throw out the first pitch. I will tell the story about that and just here in a second. It went very high. Just genuinely treated us so well. And it's not simply like, oh, well, they're a sponsor, they treated you well. Like, they're a Frontier League team, right? They're not a national brand where, like, this is a local show, but like it's not all local audience, right? It's not, right? I do the Patreons, right? We write those envelopes. We're not every single one is New Jersey, New York on there. And they stepped up to the plate from day one, right? When I started Giants Nation show, they stepped up from day one and said, we want to buy in. We want to buy into what you're doing. And they just made our experience great. And, we, like I said, the entertainment, their fireworks show was 15 minutes long. It was unbelievable. Like, we ran down because we thought we were going to miss it. And it's like, nope, it's a long fireworks show. They really treated us nice. So we did the live show. And go scminers.com to get your tickets. If you don't, go support them, right? We went and bought a jersey from the team store, because like this is our baseball team. Like I love the Yankees, but I'm a Sussex County Miners fan first. So we did the live show. Myself, Weiss, and NYG Daily had different guests on. Miner, man, they're super fan. It was a lot of fun. We were going back and forth having fun, and then afterwards was talking. He's just like the nicest guy ever. And then like did a little meet and greet afterwards, and this wasn't like something part of the deal. Like they gave us 2 suites, so basically everyone that was there for the Giants Nation show was able to hang out in the suite and got to talk with everybody, spend time with everybody. Very thankful for everyone who came out and supported. Like it really means a lot. Those live shows, you always get a little worried that people aren't going to show up, and it was nice to see everybody there. So they did that. But the first pitch, so we obviously posted, and I need to find the show on Talking Giants where I said it, but I always joked that if I ever can use my very little fame to throw out the first pitch at a minor league, or if I could use my little bit of fame to do something, I would love to throw out the first pitch at a minor league baseball game, or a major league baseball game too. Shout out to Yankees, Mets. Don't be afraid. But I said, if I do it, I'm gonna be an entertainer. I'm gonna take that ball and I'm gonna whip it. I'm gonna crow hop that thing to the top of the foul net. And so when they told me I was doing the first pitch, that is ringing through my head. And if you guys know me, if I make a joke, I stay committed to the joke. It's as stupid as the joke is. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. Like I am going to throw this ball at the top of the foul net. But I kind of went in between. One, I forgot that I was doing it. They're like, hey, you got to go throw out the first one. I'm like, oh shit. So I didn't even get like a warm up, like soft toss or anything. And I should have done that like a day before or something, and grabbed the baseball and done some soft toss. And then I get out there and I'm like, oh shit, this foul net is way lower than what I expected. I don't know if it's different than major, but it's way low. So I can easily get this thing into the stands. And these people, like I said, are the nicest. I cannot that's not funny if I throw this ball into the stands. And also, I haven't warmed up. You guys know, if you guys try and throw a ball as hard as you can, a lot of times you dirt it, right? Because you don't let go of it the right time. But I don't want to. So I'm like in between. It's like, I don't want to hold on to it too long and dirt it or have it go sideways or whatever. But I can't make sure I give it a good angle, because then it could go over the net. So I kind of just did I was like, I'm going to do like a football. So I kind of like stepped into it and just sailed it over the catcher's head. And we can maybe even get the video on the YouTube version of it. So I thought it was funny. People enjoyed it. People on socials making their jokes was cool. So that was a bucket list item taken off. Thank you to the Sussex County Miners. But the actual Sussex County Miners had the best view of it because they were like behind the plate. So they're thinking I'm gonna throw a pitch like right to the catcher. I go to the rubber and just that ball sails over the top into the net. So it was a fun experience. Everyone that came out really appreciated it. And they were talking like, we'll see how things are working in the year, but like it would be a cool thing to maybe go do something with them every training camp. And I will say this whole training camp experience, that's not over yet, right? We still got the Jets joint practices. We got preseason games we're gonna be live streaming. Obviously, I'm on the bus. Thank you so much to Mark, who's let me borrow the bus. Go follow the bus at Big Blue Crew. We've done the wheel. We're giving away a couple TV shirts, hat. Like that's stuff that I kind of always had in my mind, but like it's been awesome to be able to act those things out and talk with people and put smiles on people's faces. And it's, I'm not sitting here saying it added all these listeners, but like that's obviously the goal, is to grow the show. But it was a lot of fun to do training camp the way we did with the the on-site activations, or not even because we didn't make people like subscribe or anything. But and camp's always fun because it's just, you get to talk with fans. It's an enjoyable time. I always say, like, do not be shy. If you want to come say hello, come say hello. If you want to take a picture, come take a picture. We're always willing to do that. So it was a lot of fun, right? Going on, even did some shows on site, right? Ryan Henderson, the Juke, right? They came out. We did quick videos with them on site. So and it's a little proud of myself. My wife helps out a lot with this, but like I went from like not doing any of the technical side, or very basics to like, I was joking. I went from like not knowing how to do this stuff to we did a show live on a bus in a parking lot and in a minor league baseball stadium in the same day with no added like equipment help, right? It was all our equipment, all us setting it up and everything. So it's been cool. I think this show is going to get better and better. So thank you to the Miners for doing that. Thank you to you guys. Again, we still have the Jets joint practices, so it's not the final goodbyes of training camp 2025, but we've been looking forward to this, planning for this for a couple months, and it's coming. It's been a lot of fun. So appreciate you guys very much. So we will see you guys player profiles this week. Friday episode, I think we're having Clem on. Do a little bit of a preseason game preview, and then we got preseason game recap. Just right around the corner. So appreciate you guys very much. We'll see you on the next one. Until then, let's go Big Blue.